I became active in my children's schools in 1983. I know I don't look that old, but that's when my oldest started first grade, by setting up the computer lab. And I served on our school board then from 1990 to 2008 when I was elected to the state assembly. I've seen firsthand the difference the state school facilities program makes, and believe me, it's a big difference. In the 1980s and 90s, schools were deteriorating. In our district, we covered the computers with big plastic sheets when it rained, and we brought in 32-gallon trash cans to collect the water from the leaking roofs. It took 3 times for our district to pass a very modest school bond. At the same time, it took Fresno 5 attempts to pass its first bond. The state of California then put an $800 million bond on the ballot. Keep in mind, we're the biggest state in the union. And while we had an $800 million bond on the ballot, Dade County, Florida, a single county in Florida, passed a $1.2 billion school bond. Is it any wonder that our schools were falling apart? The state limited the fees district could charge for new homes that were being built, and that left districts suing developers or developers suing districts regarding the mitigation over new schools. Something had to be done. So in 1998, Republicans and Democrats and business and labor joined the Education Coalition and agreed to a grand compromise. We often refer to it as the three-legged stool. First, the state would pass bonds to provide pure pupil grants for construction of new classrooms for growth, or more specifically, unhoused students. Local school districts would pass bonds to match these funds. At the same time, the threshold for passing local bonds was reduced from 2/3 to 55%, making it easier for them to pass those bonds. Developers would pay increased fees to mitigate the impact of student growth from new construction. The program has been one of the most effective in our state. Over the past 16 years, the state has provided $35 billion in funds to local school districts. That money has been matched by over $75 billion in local bonds and developer fees. Over 55,000 new classrooms have been built, and over 136,000 classrooms have been modernized, but the job's not done. We still have schools that are 30, 40, or 50 years old. Our schools are working hard to implement new curriculum and integrate technology. They are developing new STEM and career technical programs to meet the needs of our changing workforce. We have an economy that is recovering from the deepest recession in our lifetimes, and housing, which leads us out of the typical recession and was hardest hit by this recession, is beginning to rebound. Now is not the time to cut off one leg of the stool. The last state school construction bond was passed in 2006. The state has been out of money for new construction and modernization for the past 2 years. In 2012, the governor asked us to wait until 2014. We did. But it is now time for the legislature to pass and the governor to sign AB 2235, which places a school bond on this November's ballot. The state must live up to its part of the bargain.
There's no greater pride for a construction worker to take his son or daughter to a particular project and say, look, I helped build that. But there is even greater pride in taking that son or daughter to a school site and said, look, I built that school that you are so attending. Our members live in those communities. They're taxpayers, and they need a better education system for their children. They want them to be successful. We're partners with our school districts in apprenticeship programs and career technical education and in building those schools. And I can tell you that coming out of the greatest recession, basically since the Great Depression, it was the school bond program and the assistance from the state that helped many families keep their homes.
Over the years, I have the opportunity to see all the great benefits of the state's school facilities programs have provided to my district and also many other districts in Riverside County as well as statewide. When voters approve local bonds, they do so with the understanding that the state is going to partner to make sure that facilities are built adequately and modernized adequately for a good educational environment.
I ask you, how many major bills have the support of both Democrats and Republicans? How many have the support of both business and labor? And how many have the support of the entire education community? AB 2235 does.